Hello and welcome everyone to our webinar. Again, this has been a great journey over the past 3.5, almost 4 years now that we've been doing webinars. And I'm so happy to see so many of our very loyal attendees over the years. Thank you so much for being there and spreading the word. And the strength for the registration has always gone up from strength to strength. And thank you so much that that you're participating on a global basis. And the subject today is MAS-TRM, that is like a regulatory standard for data security in Singapore. And this has again come up as one of the key requirements or requests from our attendees that we ask at the end of all of our webinars. So this is going to be very interesting actually. So it will give you a very in-depth idea of what is the regulatory framework in Singapore and what is the data security requirements for organizations in Singapore. So it's really very interesting. So this is what we'll be covering: background and history of MAS-TRM, control requirements of MAS-TRM, then audit process and the ongoing compliance requirements. And as always, you attend the webinar, you stay till the end, and you can give a webinar as your CPEs that you can use for various certification, which could be CISA, CISSP, CRISC, CISM, PCI QSA, and all those things. So you can use it over there as a part of your continual professional education. And that's a YouTube channel, and do subscribe. There are tons of free and cool stuff over there on PCI DSS, PCI PN, HIPAA, GDPR, SOC 1, SOC 2, NIST guidelines. The list is endless. You can just go through it. And these are the few of the past webinars that we've had so far. And it's almost 40 odd webinars that we've had online. And you can go through it. It's all free. And do subscribe to our channel and click on the bell icon to get notified when when new content is uploaded. So, and as it's always the case, what makes a webinar extremely interesting is a live Q&A that happens. So whatever your queries are, do drop it in immediately. Do not wait for the webinar to get over. So that will be the key thing for you to keep in mind as we progress with this requirement. And that's a brief about me and our company. Many of you, and I can see many of my old and current clients, friends, and all are there online, and you know me. But for those who are not aware of who I am, I'm a PCI QSA, QPA. I've done my CISSP, CISA, CRISC, and I've been as an ISO 27001 lead auditor, and more than 25 years experience actually in the industry. So there are many things that is going on and on and on. So I'm there with you if any other queries also comes up. So do drop me a line and I'll be more than happy to respond to you. I'll give my coordinates for correcting at the end. And brief about the company which I run, Vista InfoSec, and we are there in India, we're there in US, Canada, we're there in Africa, we're there in the Middle East. We opened up an office just very recently in Singapore, and that was last year, not recently. That was last year in Singapore, and that's where all these requirements for MAS-TRM came in, and the interest in MAS-TRM was shown by so many of our clients. And this is a brief of our services. We have a separate streams are there where we're doing the compliance, wherein we look at SOC 1, SOC 2, GDPR, MAS-TRM, HIPAA, all these things, all in the process consulting. And then we are there as a risk and cybersecurity management, wherein we do VAPT, we do web mobile AppSec, we are also on virtualization risk assessment, secure configuration assessment. All these things is due. And then we have a tech team also, wherein as a company, we don't sell any products. But many a time clients ask us, because we are also PCI DSS QSA, they ask us for very specific advice on what technology to use where and how things are rolling. So that's where we are. But again, we don't sell the products and we don't have any tie-ups with any hardware or software vendor. And of course, we have our own online portal that is Academia Compliance, wherein we do corporate internal trainings. These are our certification services or attestation services, as you might want to refer to, and these are a few of our clients. So okay, that was about us, and we jump right into the subject to understand the IT landscape in the financial sector of Singapore. Now, as you might be aware, Singapore is known as one of the best countries in the world to do business in. And that's what is Singapore all about. The rapid advancement in technology has transformed a small country, and even my state where I'm from in India, Maharashtra, is much bigger. Even the city of Bombay, it's as big, if I'm not mistaken, as the city of Bombay in itself. And but that doesn't start, that never stops Singapore from becoming such vibrant and such developed and such highly supportive to all verticals, with an extremely good judiciary system, financial system, IT tech system. Even our experience with Singapore and its regulatory bodies has been extremely interesting and very, very super supportive and friendly. So again, as things are growing, banks and financial institutions, of course, face the premier, their front-end organizations face huge challenges of keeping pace with evolving technology and growing needs of tech-savvy customers. And then many other financial institutions have switched its operations and financial services online by deploying advanced IT and online systems, including internet banking. For example, I'll tell you, when a company opened in Singapore, we never I didn't have to visit Singapore for doing the bank account. Of course, I keep traveling, but for the bank account, nothing. Nothing. I was sitting at home, and we had a video call. Just fill up some online forms. Just sign it online. Video call. Show your passports on the video call, and it was all done. All done online. Not a single piece of paper was transferred. There is no mess anywhere. And we got our internet banking accounts. We got our bank accounts in place, all in Singapore dollars, for Euro, and even USD. So 3 bank accounts was opened in the most painless way that we have ever seen. Of course, I was there in the US also. We were accounts in Bank of America. We were there in Citibank and all. Of course, even that has been very, very, very safe. And but again, over there, being a foreign citizen, I had to visit, the branch, the local US branch, to open a bank account. But there also, surprisingly, even though I'm a non-resident alien, and not like alien out of India, out of the world types, but not a US citizen. Still, without any sort of paperwork, it got done in like 20 minutes. My account was done. So, but here in Singapore, I didn't have to visit the branch. Sitting in India, in the comfort of my home, it got done. Anyway, so this has significantly exposed businesses to many technological and cybersecurity risks. So, for addressing these business issues, are required to have to be in place a very robust and adequate RMS, that's a risk management system, and operating processes. And that's where the Monetary Authority of Singapore, MAS, Monetary Authority of Singapore, issued the TRM guidelines, Technology Risk Management Guidelines, which helps address these and emerging technology risks within the financial institutions. Now, MAS was established in 1971. That was much before even I was born, and it's the country's central financial and central bank and financially regulatory authority. It has been given the authority by the government to regulate the financial services sector. It acts as a banker and the financial agent of the government. It is also interested to promote the monetary stability, credit, and exchange policies. Now, in April 1977, the government even decided to make the regulation of the insurance industries again under MAS. So, even the regulatory functions under the Security Industries Act 1973 was also transferred to the MAS in September 1984. So, the MAS now administers to various statutes pertaining to money, banking, insurance, securities, and even the financial sector. It's a central bank of Singapore. It has regulatory power and oversight over all the financial operations performed by the financial institutions within Singapore. Now, then, in order to in a view to strengthen the operations and secure the information security systems, the MAS then issued the TRM guidelines, the TRMG guidelines, technology risk management guidelines. And then in June 2003, they issued the TRMG guidelines. Now, these are basically best practices which are supposed to be followed by financial institution. Now, when you use the word best practices, it means it's not really a mandate. So these are not legally binding, but MAS uses it as a benchmark for assessing the risk of financial institutions. So the TRMG helps institutes build a framework that protects customers' financial data, transactional data, and other systems. It also facilitates the establishment of a sound and robust technology risk management framework. So it involves all the technology, financial, operations, and compliance considerations. So it is a technology standard, a risk management standard made for the financial insurance and risk management institutions of Singapore, and not just for a particular one type vertical. So it is NBFC, BFSI, whatever you can call it, it's covered under the TRM. It's the most complex issue to risk issue. A payment service provider has to evaluate in its business. So it is basically meant for establishing a sound and robust technology risk management framework, and then it helps even deploy strong authentication monitoring systems in the enterprise. It has 12 sections and 5 appendix, addressing a range of areas. It's not just about firewall, antivirus, and patch and all. It is for the senior management, risk frameworks, IT sourcing. As you will see, we'll go through all the 12 sections and you'll see what I mean. Now, the items in each section include both the specific and broad guidelines for both banking, capital markets, insurance, payments, everyone. So, financial institutions may adopt these guidelines considering the business operations where they want to engage in. Financial institutions should read and apply the guidelines in conjunction with relevant regulatory requirements. So, it is not meant for this. So, now this is very interesting. This is the 12 the 12 domains, as it is called, what you see in 12 sections and 5 appendices. We'll look at the 12 sections. Oversight of technology risk by the board of directors and the senior management. So the overall responsibility has been given to the board of directors and senior management. They should have the oversight over the technology risk and ensure establishment and maintenance and sound and robust technology risk management framework. So it is overall the responsibility of the management. They cannot say, I had asked my IT head to look into it and they will now manage it. So it is on those lines. So the first things first, responsibility is on the senior management. Like any standard, whether it's an ISO or a PCI, whatever, there needs to be senior management involvement mandatory. Then there's a technology risk management network. So this is all about end-to-end risk management. So the financial institution should establish a policy on information system asset protection to prevent unauthorized access, fraudulent modification, insertion, deletion, substitution, subtraction, everything. So an end-to-end asset management, risk identification, and even risk treatment and monitoring framework. So it's an end-to-end risk management and treatment framework needs to be established over here. Then the next thing is management of IT outsourcing risk. Now here there is a due diligence that has to be applied. It speaks about the due diligence because why this is extremely important is that many companies are are looking at outsourcing and then say that since we have outsourced it, now the responsibility is no longer mine. And TRM makes it very clear that the due diligence is still yours. So even though the responsibility is somebody else, you are still accountable for whatever mess that might happen. And then the cloud computing. FI should be aware of cloud computing unique attributes and risk, especially in the areas of data integrity, sovereignty, commingling, everything is covered in the cloud computing. So cloud computing is also, as I don't think I need to reiterate that, is also part of IT outsourcing. So it doesn't mean I put on the cloud, so uptime, downtime, risk associated with cloud, all is not my responsibility. It is still yours. Now, acquisition and development of information systems, it is, I wouldn't say very well in the same lines, but something on the lines of acquisition, development, or information systems in ISO 27001. But this thing goes a lot more than that. It speaks about IT project management. It speaks about a regular system for security requirements and testing for identifying, security requirements and testing of the security requirements. Then it speaks about a source code review. There should be a high degree of system and data integrity for all systems. Then the end user development. That's the end user code development. It's not just a personality development of the end users. So from the programs code, script, macros before they are rolled out to ensure the integrity and reliability of the applications. ITSM. This is extremely important. If you have already done something like an ISO 20000 or an ITIL, this will really help. It will really help because it speaks on the same lines. Setting up an ITMF, ITSMF, IT service management framework, doing capacity management, problem management, incident management, program migration from one to the next, change management. It is very well written actually. If you have some time, do go through the IT, do go to the MAS-TRM guidelines. A lot of information is something that you can pick up. Then it speaks about system reliability, availability, and recoverability. In short, of disaster management, if I might put it in that way. So disaster recovery plan, disaster recovery testing, then again data backup management. So all those requirements are listed out in TRM guidelines. Now this is a part of your ongoing business as usual parts. That is operational infrastructure security management. So configuration management of a network and security devices, technology refresh, that whenever you're doing a refresh of a technology, data loss prevention, and ongoing cycles of BAPTs, patch management, security monitoring. So in any of these things, if you have any requirement also, we are there. We have our own consulting practice on that. So, but this is more on the ongoing processes from data leakage prevention, patch management, BAPTs, refresh management, configuration management. So ensuring that this thing, the first part, I'll just quickly breeze you through it. That is consistent application of security configurations to the operating systems, databases, network devices, mobile devices within the IT environment, and data centers protection and control. So here they have, this is as far as the overall data center is concerned. So it is not just a small thing. So there is the threat and vulnerability risk assessment. We are speaking about physical security, and we're talking about data center resilience. In case of data center goes down, then what? Okay, there is a nice query by Chen. Okay, Chen is asking, our servers are hosted in the data center. Okay, it's an ITC, so it's an outsourced data center. So would this control still be applicable? Data center resiliency. See, then you are not responsible for the uptime of the data center, but you should be in a position to show that you have done the due diligence to check whether all these requirements are there in place, and your data center has upgraded themselves with the TRMG guidelines. So all these things is something that you need to continuously check with your provider per se. Access control, here is the user access management. The privileged access management, the user access is like a day-to-day access management, and privileged access management is where the people who have more than user access. So how are they managing the access of their system? So something like an admin or a managerial access, which is meant to be a privilege. How are those access management being done? How are you reviewing the access given to those IDs? User entitlement reviews. All those things comes under access control. And there's an online financial services. So online system security, it could be your banking system online, your financial trading systems online, or mobile systems online, payment systems online, payment gateways online. So all those things, the protection of that comes under online financial services. Then there's a payment card security. There's payment card fraud. How do you take care of that and ensuring it doesn't happen? And then again, there's payment card fraud by and large would come under card not present, and the ATM and Paytm kiosk security, where what I mean, the card present systems, how that is being taken or secured in. And last but not the least is the IT audit, a continual cycle of audit, regular cycle of audits to be established to ensure that the data is, that processes are still in line with the managemental expectations. So this is what what it is all about. If I might just summarize it out, you can you can see that over here. So ensuring risk management, guidelines on information security, facilitating the due diligence, development of information systems. All these comes under it. So these are the benefits of MAS-TRM guidelines. It helps build your reputation, prevents occurrence of incidents, improves the security stance, facilitates business continuity, and in case something does go wrong, MAS will ask you what has been your stance with the TRM guidelines. Then there has been a proposed revision on TRM on 7th March 2019. It's been more than a year and it's in place. And this is a part of the ongoing strategy of the MAS to ensure that the standard is in line with the evolving IT risk and security landscape that the financial institutes are burdened with to cope. So here there are 14. This includes 14 changes to the TRM. I'll quickly cover the 14 changes. So this presentation becomes complete. Now this update was done much like how the PCI body does. So it was done very close partnership with the financial industries. And there's a cybersecurity advisory panel, which consists of international cybersecurity thought leaders to provide valuable inputs in shaping the proposed TRM guidelines. So the first one, application of this thing, FIs are expected to adopt sound practices for the management of technology risk. And so here also it speaks about written directions, notices, codes, and other guidelines that MAS may issue from time to time. Then these are a few things. Now the role, the first thing is technology risk and governance oversight. So it gives very detailed information on the role of the board of directors and senior management, the policies, standards and procedures required, the management of information assets. So here it speaks about setting up an asset management framework and AMF, and not just doing it in a casual way. Then management of third-party services. This is also there, and it is extremely well written. You can even cross-refer it to ISO 27001 for management of third-party services, and competency and background review of your employees internal to the organization. It speaks about security awareness and training at least once a year that has to be done, or more, not just once a year. It can even be more. Anyway, so it is up to you. So the risk management framework again expected from the management itself to establish it out, and it has to be effective and to achieve data confidentiality, integrity, system security, reliability, all those things. It gives some additional points for identification of threats in risk identification and vulnerabilities. That is, then the risk assessment that actually happens. It speaks about taking into consideration the financial, operation, legal, reputational, regulatory factors. You should go to the standard to understand this more in detail, but this has become more pointed now so that people don't take parts of it for granted. And here again, it speaks about a risk treatment to identification of strategies to help close the gaps, and then the continual cycle of monitoring under risk monitoring, review, and reporting. Now, in the IT project management and security by design, this is where it is leading to. It speaks about the project management framework, setting up a project steering committee, managing system acquisition so that it is in line with what your overall framework for the organization is all about, and the management of expectations, of course, and the system development lifecycle and security by design that is required. System requirements analysis, this is missed by many people. It is only after the system is up then people start thinking about information security, and then making data security part of your system testing and acceptance, and then finally the quality management of the deliverables. Now secure coding, secure code review, application security testing, all is a part of software application development. It speaks about using the agile development framework as a part of agile software development. uh, then DevOps management as a part of your development operations on a day-to-day basis, SDLC framework and IT SM to be a part of it. Then application programming interface development, that when the place where you click to go ahead. So development of that, and then managing of end user computing applications. So whatever could be running on the end user systems. Then in IT service management, many changes has been done. Many changes. You can refer to this presentation in detail online when I post it online. But it speaks about the appropriate setup of an IT SMF, a service management framework, the process for configuration management, technology refresh management, patch management, and ensure closure of the patches, change management with very effective strategies for rollback and validation of change, and software release management. This is again was not there earlier in a very detailed manner, but here it is in software release management. And then there is incident management and of course problem management. Now, just to set the record straight, a problem is different from a ticket. A ticket is like a one-time occurrence. When the tickets recur again and again, it's a problem. So that's what is problem management all about. IT resilience is more of disaster recovery and business continuity. So here it speaks about availability, recoverability, testing of disaster recovery plans, and backup and recovery, and then finally the resilience of the data center as a whole. If you're outsourcing it to an IDC, you need to just check whether they have done all these things. Access control. Here we have user access management, we have privileged access management as we saw earlier, and then we even have remote access management. So this has been exceptionally helpful for people in this COVID scenario. Of course, this was released in 2019, so there is no idea on earth that there will be a time in the near future where they'll actually end up using the parameters that they have established in the standard in itself. Cryptography, this is again a new thing that they have added, cryptography algorithm and protocol, and then of course the cryptography key management. In many organizations, rather in almost all the organizations you've seen, the key management becomes like an extremely open issue where people have not really worked on. They just scribble a password or some code somewhere and put it in dual control, which is not really acceptable. Then as a part of operational infrastructure security, they have broken up the entire plethora of tests to be done under various very pertinent headings like data security, there is network security, system security with regards to hardware and software, there is virtualization security, one of the most ignored area, but it is extremely important because in case your hypervisor gets compromised, everything gets compromised. And last but not the least, the WizKid, as people call it, the Internet of Things, IoT. Then cyber surveillance and security operations. This is a part of your cyber is more on the outside facing, on the internet facing front. So it speaks about setting up a cyber monitoring and security operations center, cyber incident response management, which is different than what you saw earlier as incident management. Here it is more for threats from the internet. Then there is a cyber threat intelligence and information sharing. One sec. Okay. Now, cybersecurity assessment, this gets more interesting. Very clear requirements for vulnerability assessment, pen testing. There is a requirement for cybersecurity exercise, adversarial attack simulation. This is more like a red team attack. That is again something that we do. You can go to a website www.vista.infosec, infosec as an information security, and go into the webinar details and go into a services rather, and there you have something called as a red team assessment service that we do, and that is something on an adversarial attack simulation. And then there is an intelligence based exercise. It could be more than more on ensuring that the people are actually awake through the entire audit cycle. And then of course the remediation management. And for online financial services, so then security of the online financial services, customer authentication, transaction signing, so that there is a proper non-repudiation happening, so that people don't say I never made this transaction. Fraud managing, monitoring, anti-money laundering. Then it gets into the consumer education and communication, because for any sort of banking system in the world, the users always have the benefit of doubt. So if you have not made a mistake, you'll actually have to prove it in that way. And then last but not the least is again the IT audit function. So the IT audit function is this should be there to ensure that the IT audit is performed to provide the board of directors and senior management an effective and objective opinion of the adequacy and effectiveness of the FIs, financial institutions, risk management, governance, and internal controls. So then what steps do you need to take to ensure the TRM compliance in place? So most importantly is examine your current outsourcing framework, then review your standard contracts with the clients and to align the clauses required with the guidelines. Then ensure that your ongoing tenders and negotiations introduce these requirements as a part of the internal review process. So for example, you would say in your tenders that we will only work with organizations who have got MAS-TRM compliance attestation that has been done. In case you haven't, just drop in a line, we'll help you with it, don't worry. Then consider a training program for the procurement and vendor managements, and then that brings me to the end of it of my presentation. And so thank you so much for sharing your valuable time. And these are our YouTube channels. We've got hundreds of users. We just crossed, I think, 800 users now on our YouTube channel. There is tons of free content coming in. This is an official Facebook page, and do click, and you'll be able to get an idea of how much content we are sharing, what content we are sharing. So you're also apprised without you making much of an effort as to what's happening in the industry. And that's our LinkedIn page. We got thousands of people on board, and we roll out very pertinent content on a very periodic basis. And these are my coordinates. So do drop me a line in case you have any queries at sales.vista.info@vista.infosec.com, and I'll be more than happy to respond to you. So I've finished it exactly on time. And if you have any queries, as I said, do drop in a line. Thank you so much for sparing your valuable time and being there with us. Take care.